Welcome to this lecture on human physiology. Today, we are going to explore a fascinating and absolutely crucial topic, the motor unit. Every single time you move, whether you are blinking your eye, writing a letter, or lifting a heavy weight, your body relies on these microscopic structures. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how your brain communicates with your muscles to create both delicate, precise actions and massive, powerful movements. Let us dive in. To begin, let us imagine you are the manager of a massive factory with thousands of workers on an assembly line. If you tried to shout orders to every single worker individually, it would be completely chaotic and inefficient. Instead, you would divide them into specific teams, each led by a dedicated supervisor. When you give a command to a supervisor, their entire team springs into action simultaneously. Your body uses this exact same organizational strategy to control your muscles. The supervisor is a single nerve cell, and the team of workers are the specific muscle fibers it controls. Now that we have an intuitive understanding, let us look at the formal biological definition. In physiology, a motor unit is defined as a single alpha motor neuron and all the individual extrafusal muscle fibers that it connects to, or innervates. The alpha motor neuron has its cell body located safely inside your spinal cord. From there, it sends a long, wire-like cable called an axon all the way out to the target muscle. Once it reaches the muscle tissue, this axon branches out into multiple terminals, forming connections known as neuromuscular junctions with several different muscle fibers. Building on that anatomical structure, we must understand a critical rule of how these units operate, the all or none principle. Because all the specific muscle fibers in a motor unit are wired to the exact same nerve cell, they cannot act independently. When the motor neuron fires an electrical signal, which we call an action potential, every single muscle fiber in that specific motor unit will contract at the exact same time. You cannot fire just half of a motor unit. The entire team always works together as a single, indivisible functional entity, ensuring a coordinated mechanical response. Let us visualize what we have just discussed with this schematic diagram. On the left, you can see the cross-section of the spinal cord, housing the cell bodies of the motor neurons. Notice the long axons extending outward toward the right, traveling all the way to the muscle tissue. The diagram uses red and blue colors to brilliantly illustrate two distinct motor units. See how the red neuron branches out to control only the red muscle fibers, while the blue neuron controls only the blue fibers. Even though they are in the same muscle, they are separate, independent teams. With the structure clear, we can now explore how your body actually uses these units in daily life. This brings us to the concept of motor unit recruitment. This process is incredibly important because it explains exactly how our brain can generate both delicate, precise movements and massive, powerful movements using the exact same muscles. If we did not have motor units, our muscles would just spasm randomly or contract all at once. Instead, the nervous system controls overall strength by deciding exactly how many motor units to activate. Fine tasks use small units, while heavy tasks recruit large units. To understand how motor units relate to muscle precision mathematically, physiologists use a simple calculation called the innervation ratio. Conceptually, this ratio helps us quantify the average size of the motor units within a specific muscle. Let us look at the formula. Capital I represents the innervation ratio, which is a unitless number. Capital N subscript F represents the total number of muscle fibers in a specific whole muscle. Capital N, subscript N, represents the total number of motor neurons innervating that same muscle. When the value of I decreases, it means the muscle has finer, more precise control. Conversely, an increase in I indicates the muscle is designed for gross, powerful movements. Now that we have our formula, let us apply it to a real biological example. A medical student is studying the lateral rectus muscle of the human eye, responsible for precise tracking movements. We're given that this muscle contains exactly 4,000 individual muscle fibers, and it is innervated by exactly 400 alpha motor neurons. We need to calculate the average innervation ratio. We start by stating our knowns and setting up the formula. We substitute 4,000 for the total fibers in the numerator and 400 for the total neurons in the denominator. Dividing these gives us a final ratio of 10. This extremely low number means each neuron controls only 10 fibers, allowing for incredibly tiny, precise adjustments of the eye. Having seen how we measure precision, we can also mathematically represent how multiple motor units combine to generate the total force of a muscle contraction. Conceptually, we do this by simply summing the force of the active units. The formula is F total equals N times F unit. F total represents the total force generated by the muscle, measured in newtons. The variable N represents the number of active motor units of a specific type that the brain has recruited. Finally, F unit represents the average force produced by one single motor unit of that type, also measured in newtons. If the nervous system increases the variable N by recruiting more units, the total force will increase proportionally to meet the physical demand. Let us put this force formula into practice with a two-part example. Imagine a person is slowly lifting a heavy textbook, causing their bicep muscle to contract. We are given that the nervous system first recruits 50 small motor units, and each of these small units produces 0.2 newtons of force. We need to find their contribution to the total force. We set up our equation specifically for the small motor units. We multiply the 50 active small units by the 0.2 newtons of force produced by each individual unit. This multiplication gives us a final answer of 10 newtons. These small units are highly fatigue resistant and are always recruited first for smooth, controlled movements. Continuing from our previous calculation, 10 newtons is not enough to lift the heavy textbook alone. Therefore, the nervous system must call in larger, more powerful units to assist. We are given that it additionally recruits 20 large motor units, each producing 1.5 newtons of force. We multiply 20 by 1.5 to reveal that the large motor units contribute a massive 30 newtons of force. Finally, to find the total force pulling on the arm bones, we add the 10 newtons from the small units and the 30 newtons from the large units together. This gives us a final total force of 40 newtons, providing the necessary burst of power to successfully lift the heavy textbook. The mathematical example we just solved perfectly illustrates a fundamental rule of human physiology, known as Henneman's size principle. Notice how the nervous system did not just turn everything on at once. Instead, it smoothly scaled up the muscle force by recruiting progressively larger motor units as the physical demand increased. The small, highly fatigue-resistant units are always recruited first to ensure smooth, controlled movements. Only when the load becomes too heavy, like with our textbook, does the brain call upon the larger, more powerful units. This principle ensures our movements are always as efficient and precise as possible. To summarize our lecture, the motor unit is the absolute fundamental functional unit of muscle contraction. We learned that it consists of one single motor neuron and all its associated muscle fibers, which always contract together under the all or none principle. We also saw how the innervation ratio dictates whether a muscle is built for delicate precision or raw power. Finally, through Henneman's size principle, we understand how the nervous system precisely scales the force of our movements. Whether you are gently blinking an eye or powerfully kicking a football, your brain is simply managing these microscopic teams of muscle fibers to get the job done perfectly. Thank you for watching.